One of the things people keep telling me is that you can't do challenge or weird runs in Diablo 3, so let's go and see how to beat the game using only items created by Hadric Amon and find the answer to the question nobody asked: can you beat Diablo 3 using only items from the smith? Not knowing how hard the game is going to get, I decided to put the game on expert in a not making my porridge too cold or too hot but just right kind of way, a decision I would come to regret later. The run starts off with immediately failing by forgetting to unequip my starting weapon during the first bit of the game. I remembered after clearing the zombies, which is about 20 seconds into the game. Now I could just restart the run for this, but I didn't. Having defeated the zombies, I head into town and encounter the first big problem of the run. Where the fuck is my smith? Well, turns out that to gain access to his services, we are going to need to kill his wife. Don't ask, long story. The problem here isn't so much his marriage and whatever is going on in there, but that it isn't the first quest. So, for a pretty long while, we are going to be playing the game without any gear. Having this frustrating realization, I decided to clobber some random bar visitors to death for the crime of breathing my air before being on my way. I didn't exactly make it very far before getting into trouble. In the damp cellar, I get introduced to the bright redness that is called being almost all of the dead. To give some insight into just how far into the game that is, it is a basement in the literal first area of the game. So as usual, we are off to a well thought through and just dandy start. Managing to get out with my life, I ended up taking out the Wretched Queen, which is the first of too many quests I need to complete before I get to gearing. This quest continues on by going to Adria's hut. It has seen better times, but the damage has unveiled her secret dungeon of unspeakable things. The next few minutes of the run are spent running around a cauldron while punching Captain Dalton in the face for a sliver of his health and repeating that until it hits 0. Down in the cathedral, the first big boss of the run is Head Cleaver. I figured this guy would be tough to beat, but all in all he wasn't too bad. I mean, he took a while, but that is to be expected when you're naked. After defeating Mr. Cleaver, we head back to New Tristram and lo and behold, Hadric Amon decides to show up. Probably thought he had the afternoon shift or something. We want him to help us with the crown of King Leoric. However, he has his wife locked in a basement and wants to kill her. Say no more. Mira Amon isn't a Digimon but a zombie and turns out to be quite a hard fight. The wife of Hadric tosses and tumbles us all across the room, making it so that we have to put on our gaming faces and actually kite and weave a bunch while we use the stun and cold damage we get from our skills to whittle her down. There are quite a few close calls during the fight, and the game promptly decides to remind us that we have an empty equipment slot. I mean, the game isn't wrong, but who likes a know-it-all? In the end, Mira ends up getting taken behind a pillar. Where she gets defeated, she ends up dropping a legendary helm, prompting the game to remind us once again that we have empty equipment slots. Leoric's crown would be a fantastic helm, but I really hope that Hadric didn't create his own wife, cause that would be so wrong on so many levels, so we can't use it. What I will do is save it in the inventory to turn into crafting materials. With our smith in place, it is finally time to wear some gear. Or so you would think. But no, our item supplier's Bloodlust isn't supplied with just offing his wife. Before we get access to his services, he wants us to go on yet another quest. He makes it all sound very noble and important. When you think about it though, he is just sending us out to make sure his grandfather gets deleted from the afterlife. Just being dead isn't good enough for our smith. He needs to be fully banished. The Shattered Crown quest has you searching for the Chancellor's altar beneath the cemetery of the Forsaken. Along the way there you come across Manglemaw, the horror of the crypt. Now I'm not completely sure, but I think that with the door being open right there, you can just skip this guy. However, I just can't get myself to skip what is supposed to be a very easy boss. And even without the whole gear wearing thing, I was able to work my way through his life total. At this point, the game really expects you to have figured out that you can equip items, so it starts to very aggressively throw the empty equipment slot push message to you at any and all times, reminding me of just how much I hate push messages and wish the world would just leave me alone so I could play video games. To the surprise of everyone, in the Chancellor's tomb we find the Chancellor. Even naked beating up a dead old man is easy, so once we deal with him, we rob his grave and get back to our smith. Upon giving the Skeleton King's shattered crown, our artisan starts making wonderful movements that very much represent smithing. Is this the time we have all been waiting for? Are we finally getting a smith? And thus, gear. It most certainly is. We have unlocked the Blacksmith. Time to let the good times roll. Hadric can repair items, craft gear and turn items into crafting materials. There is a bit of a problem though. Nothing in this life is free, and our grandfather hating would-be companion comes at quite the price. He starts at level 1 and his education is steeply priced. Even just getting to level 2 is 6,000 gold, a hefty chunk of change this early on in a run. His training can lead him up all the way to level 12, so I looked up the total gold required to get him there. The amount he is going to need is nothing to sniff at and will require us to go through the entire game with a magnifying glass to make sure we don't leave a single penny behind, cause he is asking for a small loan of 311,000 gold and 1 death's breath, which we will have to figure out how to get. So let's get to the good part. Time to craft some gear. Let's go and check what we can afford to make. Which is apparently nothing. There isn't a single item I have the required materials for. I'm stocked up well enough on everything except for reusable parts. Which means we are shit out of luck on gear for now. Time to go looking for some reusable parts. My first idea was to go up to Tashun the miner, buy a couple of items and salvage those. However, the developers blocked this, so that's a no-go. I figured that monsters would be getting harder and harder to kill, but you can find items from random stuff in the map as well, like the ashes, chests and what have you that you come across everywhere. No luck though. Fine, we will play the game and kill monsters. This doesn't end up going quite as smooth as I had hoped. Ignoring a key mechanic from the game turns out to make it a bit harder to play said game. So on my search for crafting materials, I died. A lot. Like, a lot. This exposition of sheer gaming talent prompted the most rage-inducing message any game can give you. I hate the passive-aggressive "you can put the game in easy mode" message with a fiery passion. A video game telling you suck is the worst. I hated it as a kid when Shao Kahn did it in Mortal Kombat, and I still hate it today. I know what I started. Let me enjoy it. No game. That message isn't better. Thanks for trying though. After that success, I decided to go to the Cathedral Garden. It isn't guaranteed, but this location has a very high chance of spawning a chest, which I'm hoping will drop some plain loot. Chests don't fight back, so I went up to Torment 6 difficulty to increase the item drops. It didn't have the desired effect. I'm still only finding magical items. At this point, I knew I was just misunderstanding a game mechanic, so I looked it up. Turns out the game was trying to make me do the right thing. I needed to go back to normal difficulty, not because I suck. Well, not only that at least, but because white items don't drop in higher difficulties. Meaning I could have farmed until the heat death of the universe and I still wouldn't have found a white item. So to normal we go, which isn't without its problems either. Hedrick still wants over 300,000 gold, and I'm not getting any extra by playing on normal. I'm also not getting extra experience, so my leveling will be slower. The worst part of this is none of that. It's the emotional damage of playing on easy. The game having recommended it when I was dying so much makes it even worse. It needs to be done to be able to get any reusable parts, but saying I'm slightly miffed about this would be an understatement. This is a stab in the back to my pride as a challenge runner. And after smacking a few barrels, I start getting the white items that I can salvage into parts I need. So bring out the Tran, cause we are gearing up. First thing I want is a weapon. I start out by forging a one-hander and a two-hander. The one-hander is faster, but the two-hander has more damage, so I equip that. Getting our damage from 3 to 23, a casual 800% increase in damage. I only have the materials for a few more items, and at this low level they will all be kind of samey. So I decide on wearing a belt and some boots. In the Cathedral level 3, I ask the cultists some questions and save the warrior from his peril. As a thank you for saving him, he decides that we need to help him kill Jondar. More work isn't my usual payment for a job well done, but after dealing with the betraying necromancer, he joins the squad. First thing I do is remove all his gear, cause we aren't savages and have rules around here. Our next quest is waking up the Skeleton King from his very short but still eternal slumber. Not like this guy gets woken up every other game for a cameo or anything. After he has said hello to the audience, he can go back to sleep again. He drops a legendary helmet. The game is even putting a bright red line around where I should put it, but I just don't even want to know what it is and salvage it without identifying our mystery item. Our salvaging allows us to finally put on some pants as well, so we can stop flopping in the wind. Keeping up the filling of gear slots, I also forge my first helm. I'm sure it's just as good as the 3 legendary ones we've already passed up. No, I'm not huffing copium, not at all. We're also only 1,000 gold away from leveling up our blacksmith again, so once we have some more gold, we can go and do that. The Dark Berserkers in Wortham are a huge difficulty spike this early on, cause despite it feeling like we've defeated the world and then some, we are only halfway into the first act. Don't worry though, Diablo 3 is a snowball game. Once you spit in its mouth, wait, sorry, wrong snowball. What I mean is that things start off slow, but once the momentum gets going, it really gets going. For now though, the Southern Highlands prove that our survivability is still very much lacking, as I'm dying to random goats. A pack of champion disentombed hulks in the Halls of Agony level 1 turns out to be almost too much. I end up doing a hit and run strategy where I leap in, poke them a couple times and run away again while I heal. They still push me back throughout the small corridors of the arena before finally tasting defeat. One of them dropped a heart of iron. This makes me very sad, cause it shows me just how bad my gear actually is. I'm wearing a +9 to strength magic chest armor. This legendary chest adds 3 times that, and vitality, and life regeneration, and thorns damage. The berserkers on level 2 quickly showcase why I could have used all of that, taking just a few swings to clear my life total right out. At least I'm up a forgotten soul. I'm sure that will help me a ton this run. A lot of people will be asking themselves about the skills I am using. Well, either that or you are busy doing stuff while having this on the second monitor, which is fine as well. I haven't talked about this yet because I don't know where my build is ending up. Don't worry though, I'll show it at the end. The game isn't giving me time to think about it either. Doesn't it know that it's bad manners to attack me while I'm in the menu? The final fight of the first act is the butcher, who has discovered the amazing flavor of grilling his food before eating it. So instead of his iconic fresh meat, this time around he has turned his entire house into a grill, ready to barbecue whoever is coming in his aptly named chamber of suffering. During the skirmish I end up stunning him to buy time to make it to a healing well, but his stun and shortly thereafter my first attempt ends too soon when he isn't stunned anymore and takes a swing and doesn't miss. Second attempt I slowly but surely, but mostly slowly, keep lowering his life total, and after a couple minutes of dodging fire and making sure I don't become the next shish kebab on his meat hook, the demon goes down and the first act is finally cleared. Rounding out the act, we are able to level up Hadric to level 5 before running out of gold again. We are now able to forge rares as well, thanks to the increased quality of items we have access to. Even a one-handed axe is almost doubling our damage while being a faster weapon as well, so let's dual wield those. The rest of our materials are used on filling up slots and upgrading the gear we already had before heading into the desert. Magda is the first boss of Act 2, and thanks to our new and improved gear, which is still far below what you would normally have here, we are able to take her out despite taking a bunch of explosions in the heat of battle, getting us up to level 20. A benchmark I like having is the treasure goblins that randomly spawn along our journey. As long as I am able to kill them at a reasonable pace, I feel like we are in a good spot. Despite having to give chase to this one, it does end up going down, which indicates to me that we are in a good spot. With the first part of the run behind us and our gear slots getting filled out more and more, the momentum and pace of the game are picking up fast. We are fully capable of sustaining the fighting and only have to go back to town when my inventory is at capacity. Going back does come with a risk of sadness upon seeing the beautiful stats on the items I'm bringing to the slaughter of the forge. Our desert act is divided into 2 pieces, with the first being the chase after Magda. The second part is all about reliving the joys of puzzling thanks to Zoltan Kuhl. The first part you end up finding is his head. Along the way to the next part I come across another treasure goblin. I barely end up being able to take it down after it tries to escape using a town portal, which means our damage is due for some improvement. At this point I think the goblins are just trying to fuck with me and deal as much emotional damage as possible by dropping piles of legendaries to remind us of what could have been. To distract myself I pick up the blood of Zoltan Kuhl at the end of the cave of the betrayer and at the vault of the assassin. Some close calls happen in the unknown depths where despite having a kill streak of over 100 I almost become a statistic myself. With my inventory filled up again, I went back to town, looked at all the legendaries that I was about to salvage and turn into forgotten souls, which I don't even need yet. Had a quick little cry about it and trained our trusty blacksmith to level 6 and unlocking even more gear upgrades. They are all still rares, but I'm happy having more than 1 FX per item. I've been told that blood works much better inside than outside of a body, so in the realm of shadow I pick up Zoltan Kuhl's to use as a new bottle. Having completed our Zoltan jigsaw, he attacks us in the soulstone chamber. The fight has 2 golems trying to protect him, but we kind of just demolish him and move onwards into the act. After upgrading our smith to rank 7, he can now create items that are useful from level 45 to 50, and since we are currently level 26, the pressure is off. The final boss of the second act is Belial. I find this one of the coolest fights in the entire game, with the castle just breaking down under the sheer pressure of the Lord of Lies and his green vortex. Fighting him is pretty straightforward. You dodge the giant green pools of poison and try to avoid his arms as he is swinging them around. While doing so you attack him a lot, and if you keep that up long enough he dies and you get to move on to Act 3. Gensaniku is a nice comparison point to see what my items would be looking like if I was allowing everything. Currently it seems I am missing out on about half of the base damage, a pile of stats, heaps of life per hit, experience and a summon, so we can extrapolate from there that the rest of the slots are missing about as much and truly shine a light on just how bad this gear actually is. I should also point out that we have every equipment slot filled at this point. Hadric can't make rings or amulets, so those 3 slots will stay unused for the whole run. To feel better about all of this, I do a quick capitalism and get myself a new sword. Act 3 is where the pace of the game really starts picking up. To start out, you call for aid by lighting bonfires, and once that is done, you prepare the defenses and watch other people put the catapults in place. There is one final problem inside the keep. A demon has taken over the larder and needs to be gotten rid of. To do so, you have to go down into the depths of the keep, which is filled with these exploding assholes. Once you have made your way down to the larder, Gome is waiting. At this point of the run, despite my gear being so bad, having to play on normal makes it so that I am just deleting bosses. I'm very underleveled for how deep into the game we are, but I'm able to just keep on pushing through without much resistance. Siegebreaker Assault Beast tries to put up some resistance, but I clear him out before he even breaks any of the pillars. I'm not playing for them, but getting a random achievement popping up is always fun. Much better than those pesky messages about not wearing gear. Figuring I'm better off safe than pregnant, I keep Hadric's education going, allowing him to go from magnificent to resplendent. Only 2 more things left to do in Act 3. Get to the heart of the curse to give the Maiden of Lust a pounding she will never forget. And after that, go and deal with Asmodan, the Lord of Sin, who can't be very smart. His entire strategy is to walk up to me menacingly and hoping I forget to attack or something. I don't know what his plan here was, but whatever he had in mind, it wasn't very good. The Great Span is inhibited by the Great Spanner, Isual. This time around he puts up more of a fight than he did in Diablo 2, but still isn't much of a match and gets taken care of easily enough. As you can imagine from the speed at which we are just obliterating the bosses, the game has kind of stopped being a challenge. Nothing is coming even close to posing a threat to us anymore. If I wasn't locked into playing on normal because of the crafting materials, I think we could have upped the difficulty to veteran or even master. However, the thought of just never having access to items again sounds miserable, so I decided not to. Act 4 ends with the Diablo fight. This battle has been spruced up significantly from the first 2 games. It's now a 3-part encounter with the Queen of Terror herself. The first part has her trying to trap me with bone prisons. When that fails, she sends me off to the Realm of Terror, where I fight her shadow and then my own. But joke's on her, my character sucks ass. So what is normally a very hard fight against yourself is now just me proving to myself how much of a laughingstock my equipment is. This process repeats before I get trapped in a bone prison and teleported back to the fight in the Crystal Arch. I never even realized it until I was writing this, but Diablo has kept the same attacks as she had in Diablo 2. They all look very cool as well, Zoltan cool almost. Anyway, I digress. I'm sure the comments will call me a heretic for saying it, but what I'm trying to say here is that they did a really good job on the boss fights in this game compared to the previous 2 games. It's a shame we are just blasting through them in seconds. As the Queen of Terror takes her final, very deep and definitive bow, there is only the Reaper of Souls DLC left to contend with. Act 5 starts out with Lorath Nar, who is a minor character here before becoming a big part of the story in Diablo 4. He is sent here by Tyrael to give us a heads up, cause he's good at giving away heads. The one he warns us for is Malthael, who has taken the Black Soulstone. To retrieve it, we need to follow him to his birthplace, Westmarch. Our journey there is blocked in the Zakarum Cathedral by Kassadia, the Conjurer of Death. In true action RPG fashion, we solve this with a fist full of metal and a lot of violence. Having dealt with Kassadia, we get access to our favorite wife and grandpa, and probably some other loved ones killing Blacksmith. To celebrate, we create some more forgotten souls from items we would have preferred to keep for ourselves. It would feel better if we could at least use the souls, but alas. The best part about DLCs is that they aren't afraid to make things harder, so for the first time in a few acts we get into some danger in the Westmarch Commons, where while chasing a treasure goblin I run into Matanzas the Loathsome, who gives us the first death we've had in forever, ironically pulling my attention back into the run, cause after cruising for 2.5 acts, I'm not even gonna pretend I wasn't fully on autopilot. Shutting off the automation, I made quick work of Matanzas. To make sure I wouldn't get caught off guard again, I went straight back to the forge and started upgrading. First my boots, then my armor, and finally the blacksmith himself, who is now at the glorious rank and capable of crafting items from level 55 to 60. Trouble is brewing though. While I'm still stacked up high on reusable parts, I'm out of arcane dust. With my supplies dwindling, I continued my journey, leading me to the Noble's Rest courtyard, where I needed to destroy 6 corpse piles before I got to deal with the Matron of Crucibles, Catharis. That taken care of, I have access to the Tower of Corellon where Urzael is waiting for me with a fucking cannon. The first phase of the fight isn't too bad at all. The game telegraphs where the attacks will be coming very clearly, allowing for some easy dodges. Second phase, the intensity gets heated up a notch. Fire is everywhere and Urzael decided that moving around during a fight is a good idea. I mean, I could have told him that, but good on him for figuring it out. The life total gets dangerously low, but I do end up defeating the demon in what I would call a canon event. At the start of this adventure, I talked about how Haedric required a death's breath to get to his maximum potential. I still haven't found one of those, so I decided to do some interneting and just look up where you get them. It turns out they drop from elite monsters with a monster level of 61 or higher. Diablo 3 has dynamic scaling based on your own level. I'm currently level 36, meaning that I would have to get an additional 25 levels to start finding Death's Breaths. And with only half an act to go before the finale, I can tell you right now, that's not happening. So this is where our Blacksmith college years end. Getting closer and closer to the end, the game starts ramping up the difficulty even more, with even normal areas like the passage to Corvus becoming a problem. Despite giving Adria all the big black mushrooms she could ever ask for in the first game, she decided to join forces with the powers of darkness. Spider legs aren't exactly known for their durability though. After a couple good attacks on them, she explodes out of existence. One thing I like about the Diablo series is that they make it really easy for me to do my references to obscure music gimmick. This time around I get to use Belphegor. Now it won't be my Last Supper or a Blood Sabbath, but I won't be conjuring the dead with a totem ritual or Walpurgis rites anytime soon. So a few puns later I have brought the Pest Apocalypse to him, allowing me to move on and deal with the devils coming up. My damage is becoming more and more insignificant. Even though my resources are depleting faster than snow in the desert, I have to spend them on new weapons. Considering I'm out of resources to forge new gear, and am thus no longer able to afford Haedric's eternal greed, this is as good a time as any to showcase what my final gear ended up being. Turns out that in the end all I'm able to use were a couple of scrappy rares that would serve as a placeholder in a normal playthrough. I haven't highlighted any of them because none of them were highlight worthy. My items are bad, my damage is bad, my life total is bad. What surprised me the most is that I didn't even get access to a single legendary. But challenge running is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Malthael is holed up in what used to be the Pandemonium Fortress. I figured with how this run has been going so far, it wouldn't be much of a problem. The Angel of Death very quickly shows me the meaning of pain and the way that he wants me to die, and it isn't a slow death. Second time around, the Fallen Angel upped the ante even more, turning my life total from a steady red pool to a light almost blinking as much as a traffic signal, forcing me to make my way to the health pool while I still have the chance. And it wasn't long before this ritual repeated itself. Halfway through the fight I was happy to see the health pools respawning, and it was clear that I was going to need them, cause I got saved by the cinematic starting. There is no way I would have survived that attack if it hadn't been cutscene o'clock. I spent the rest of the fight dodging and weaving his attacks, taking my shots when I got a rare opportunity to get close, and running around in circles when I didn't get a shot. This kept going for a while, and in the end even 1,000 little cuts end up being a lot of pain. Malthael might be the Angel of Death, the monarch to the kingdom of the dead, but I am an infamous butcher, and upon destroying him without mercy, I claim my final quest, saving Sanctuary and defeating Diablo 3 using only items crafted by the smith. Now don't think I forgot about showing you the build, I just kept switching around all the way to the end, so here you go. This is what my final build was looking like. I hope people enjoyed my foray into Diablo 3. If you did, please subscribe to the channel and loot that like button, and I will see you all in the next one.